Hey guys, EJ here, and I'm going to be doing another relatively classic review, just much like Lil Peep's review. It's only 2 years old, but it feels a lot older, mainly because the artist I'm covering has passed away. I'm going to be reviewing my personal favorite album from Xxxtentacion, the Question Mark album. My god, does that glare so much. There we go. There we go. There's a lot of debate in his fan base over which album is people's favorite, or which release, I should say. You have the people that prefer the more energetic, more aggressive sound of his really early songs and mixtapes. You have the people that prefer the more stripped back acoustic 17, which is another album I really love quite a bit. But my personal favorite has always been the Question Mark album. I'm not sure if I should call it question mark. I'm just gonna call it this album. Um, Not only does he really dive deep into his style and his whole inner self, he also explores a lot with different genres, and I think he does a great job at executing it. I've seen a lot of criticism of this album. People saying that these songs sound like demos, or too short, they're incomplete. But I personally find those criticisms really lacking when you actually dive a little deeper into the concept and everything of this album. These songs aren't meant to be long epics, they're meant to be short. That's the point. And that's why I can't criticize this album for having a long track list but a short length. Because to be completely honest, I feel like this was all part of the overall plan on this album. I usually go through the track list on these reviews, so obviously it starts off with that introduction, but once the music starts, it starts with just acoustic guitar on Alone Part 3, which is undoubtedly, I think, X at his most vulnerable sounding, most emotional, and is very reminiscent of his past album 17, but he goes right into Moonlight and Sad, two songs which obviously have elevated this album a lot in popularity due to those songs' massive popularity. But both songs are tremendous. Moonlight has that kind of synth that goes in and out, in the mix, and it just adds so much to the vibe of the song. And the beat, the instrumental, his vocal delivery. I love his vocal delivery on Moonlight. It's a great song, and it's one of the most innovative uses of the whole kind of modern hip-hop beats that are being thrown around a lot in modern popular music, and I really do like that. I really like that a lot, and Sad is arguably the biggest hit on this album. There isn't much really that needs to be said about that song. The Remedy for a Broken Heart is very reminiscent once again of 17, but I don't know, I've always felt that these songs, they just feel much more polished. They feel much more personal, and I know that might get me some criticism because 17 is a very personal album to him, but the execution of these songs I just prefer a bit more on the Question Mark album. And one of my personal favorites is Floor 555 or 555 or whatever you want to say. The droning, just kind of synth, but it's very atmospheric, very ambient, with just the heavy, heavy hit, and really simple though beat behind it, with his screaming, distorted vocals. It's like a glimpse of the past of the old X, and but with the quality and better production of this X, the X that was going on much later. And what I love so much about this album is how these songs all transition into each other. And despite them all being different genres, they all go together quite well. A great example is the song Numb, which follows that song. Essentially a rock song, following 4555, which is one of the more, I guess, hardcore hip-hop songs, whatever you want to call it. He makes it work. And I find that really impressive. In my little peep review, I brought up the fact that he's able to blend all these genres within one song, and yet he makes it work. And there's just something cool about that, in my opinion. X, however, has a different method. He usually, what he does, at least from what I've picked up on the music, is that he takes a bunch of different genres and writes one song here and there dedicated to that genre. For example, Numb and Pain Equals Best Friend are relatively rock songs. Sad, Moonlight, The Dollar Sign with Matt Ox. Those are primarily hip hop that you would hear out there. Songs like Remedy for a Broken Heart, songs like Love Yourself are more acoustic, are definitely much more reminiscent of the old X. And you have songs like Floor 555. You have songs like Schizophrenia, which kind of give you a glimpse of the old X. And he takes all these different sounds, all these different genres and styles, and makes a nice song here and there for each genre, and manages to make the album flow, which is impressive to me. Because usually, I will say, when an artist tries to do something, the album, like this, the album usually ends up sounding very patchy, very incomplete, very much like demos, not that polished and hard to listen to because it's jumping all over the place. But even though he does jump all over the place, it feels much more cohesive, it feels much more complete and like a solid album. And that's really what brings me back to this album, is that let's say I get tired of Sad or Moonlight. I have multiple other genres to listen to on this album alone. And I've seen people bring up, oh, well, he experiments so many, but he's actually not that good at any of these genres. You don't need to be a great musician. You don't need to be the greatest songwriter or the greatest artist in the world to make a good album. And I think this shows. And I'm not going to go through the entire track list. I do think that there are some songs on here which I'm not as crazy about, like the I Don't Speak Spanish, LOL song. But even then, it's him taking a stab at another genre and making the album work despite it being pretty different. At the end of the day, I think this album, for me at least, will be remembered as one of the most innovative, one of the most iconic and classic albums of the 2010s. And I think that over time, all the controversy and all the scandals involving Xxxtentacion's life will, obviously some of that's important. You can't just totally look past some of the issues that he had personally. But you can't take that away from the music. And I believe that he'll be remembered for his music contributions and how he was trying to turn his life around when he was unfortunately shot and passed away in mid-2018. At least that's how I hope he gets remembered. But yeah, this album is excellent. Why is there so much glare? Great album. I recommend everybody check this album out if you haven't. I love this album. Definitely a classic for me. It's definitely going to go down in the books as one of the greatest albums from my youth.